Okay, so I got a lot of flack when I posted this video on a Facebook DJI owners page because they thought I was comparing it to a GoPro. But I wasn't comparing it to a GoPro. I was just showing people this camera they might not have known about. But this time I am comparing it to a GoPro. I'm comparing it to the GoPro Hero 7 Silver. And specifically, I want you to take a good look at the footage of the 360 Go camera and how you do not see major horizon tilts or major kick-ups when the drone stops. In fact, it's almost hard to tell really when the drone does stop because the software in this 360 camera is so good at stabilization that you don't even really notice it. And that was my point, was the stabilization. The actual footage, the picture itself, it's hard to compare. I think maybe they're close, but it's hard to compare in this test because I did it at a different location on a different day. And it was pretty sunny on the day I did the 360 camera. And it was pretty dark and dreary today when I did the GoPro footage. So it might be a little bit hard to tell, but I wasn't really comparing the picture. I think the picture, actually the Hero 7 will record in 4K. I did 1080 at 30 frames a second. The Insta360 supposedly records in 2K and then outputs in 1080p, and it uses a lot of that extra resolution to stabilize the footage. And that makes sense. The files are pretty big. Now this camera is not cheap, but it's very convenient. It has all kinds of uses, and drones are not its primary use. It's just drone guys got a hold of it and realized they could mount this on any little tiny drone because of the weight and the size of it. It's perfect. I wasn't recommending people mount this on their Mavic Air 2, but right now that's all I have because my FPV was in a tragic accident. So I'm using the Mavic Air 2. I also did previous tests with this camera on a Mavic Mini facing backwards, and I did a previous test on a Mavic Air with it facing backwards because I thought that would be pretty cool with the camera just facing backwards. So if you look at the stabilization, there are times when I stop and start the drone, but you can't see it because it almost acts as good as the Mavic Air 2 camera. It doesn't kick up. The horizon doesn't tilt very much. It does a little, but nothing like you're going to see with the GoPro footage that's coming up here in a second. So here in a minute, I'm going to attach the video for the GoPro footage. So take a look at that, make your own decision. If you don't like this camera, you don't have to buy it. I'm just sharing information. This is a different location, but this time it's a Hero 7. Now a Hero 7 is, you don't hear much about it. It's not one of the best GoPros at all. I'm gonna go ahead and run it for about 5 minutes, and then we can take this footage and look at it compared to the Insta360. And I'm not making a judgment. We're just gonna look at the footage. The thing is, I had to switch locations because the bridge I was filming on the other day has a bunch of construction workers on it and stuff right now, and I did not want to, be flying around that construction zone. So I'm taking it up in this park here. I'm just gonna fly it around and just kind of drift around in position mode, or normal mode on a Mavic Air 2. And we're just gonna check the stabilization. I'm not gonna do any drastic starts and stops. So here we go. So I'm just gonna slowly bring this up to a hover. I'm going to try not to make any abrupt movements. This is the exact same way I was flying the Insta360. Now the Hero 7 doesn't really have any stabilization, so you'll see the horizon tilt quite a bit. Remember, this drone is GPS position, so it stays pretty level. It's not very windy today, maybe 5-mile-an-hour winds. Right here I'm floating around about, really just about between 5 and 10 miles an hour. So right there you saw a little jolt where I stopped the drone. You weren't really seeing that with the Insta360 Go camera. You see the horizon tilting each time I turn the drone. The camera on the drone, obviously with the 3-axis gimbal, you don't see that. You weren't seeing this kind of activity with the 360 Go camera. The picture quality on this seems to be fine, although it's not the best, and the Hero 7 is the cheapest GoPro I think ever. You hardly ever see or hear anybody talking about it. Most guys don't mount it on their FPV drones, but they can, because an FPV drone is not GPS positioned and it doesn't have an altitude hold, so it doesn't do abrupt stops like that. If you fly it smoothly, the camera footage would probably look pretty smooth even with this Hero 7 with no stabilization. It's definitely a dark, gloomy day. There's not much I can do to brighten this up. The Hero 7 is on just full auto. I tried to brighten it up a little bit, but I didn't want to edit it too much. Just brighten it up so you could see a little more detail. I'm just drifting along here, probably around 10 to 15 miles an hour. Whoops, I stopped right there. I don't know why. But you definitely see that on the GoPro. And I was doing that with the Insta, and it was a lot more windy over that bridge and everything. Today was pretty calm, so this has nothing to do with the wind. The GoPro is picking up every little movement, and it's not straightening it out. This 360 camera does it all in the software. If I didn't use the FPV stabilization when I rendered the video, you'd see all that. But that's the beauty of that little camera. The picture may or may not be as good as this. My point was the stabilization of the camera. There's the motorcycle training course down to your right for people who are wanting to get their, oops, there was a little jerk. Obviously you don't see that in the drone camera. Now I'm turning back, heading back towards the parking lot where I was parked, I think. Nice and slow. I'm trying to give this camera every benefit of the doubt. What I'm saying is, it's the stabilization. A lot of people were saying, I cannot compare that Insta360 to a GoPro. Well, my point is this. A lot of drones are going to have to be under 249 grams. A GoPro weighs too much. Now you can strip your GoPro down and turn it into a naked GoPro, and it weighs, I've seen some that if you really do it, it can weigh down to 20 grams or less, depending on the kind of the GoPro you got. But you don't have a GoPro anymore. So there might be other things you like to do in your life if you go snowboarding or whatever. It's kind of an expensive thing to tear apart, so you can put it on a micro quad. My point was this camera works on micro quads that will not carry a GoPro, like a Tiny Hawk or any one of those 2.5, 3-inch little toothpick drones, racing drones. It's not for FPV, it's for you to record your video and to share with your friends and stuff. To me, it's better than the GoPro. It's lighter. It'll mount on anything. Anything. You can put it on a Tello. So, to me, the picture doesn't look much better. It might not even be as good as the GoPro, but the stabilization is very important. And the weight and the size of it. Because even a naked GoPro would not really look too good on a Tiny Hawk. I don't know how that would fly. It might be out of balance. Even if it only weighs 17 or 18 grams, it still might be, I'm talking about like a Tiny Hawk 2 Freestyle. It still might be really awkward. And then if you hit something, there goes your naked GoPro. This thing is also pretty durable, and you could wrap it with rubber bands to give it like a bumper. You could probably put something over the lens. They may even make a little like a waterproof case for it that would protect the camera from scratches and a crash. You know, like maybe it's for underwater type stuff, but it would work, you know, for an FPV crash too. So that's pretty much about it. This is just information I'm sharing. Some people might not know about this camera. I really like the little camera, and I plan on using it a lot more. So thanks for watching the video.